Hello everyone, I am joined once again by AnimeAjay.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about the Resurrection F arc today.
Oh, why do you make me do these things?
I don't know. I don't know why I did it. I guess I'm a masochist.
You're kind of crazy. No, I don't like this arc. I like parts of it. I like maybe half of it. So we'll try and keep it nice and balanced. I hope.
We'll try. There's no
We'll do our
guarantee
best.
about that.
Yeah.
We're going to do this the same way we did the first one, just go episode by episode. And the first episode is episode 15, which is Yoshitaka Yoshima as the animation supervisor, and he pretty much did all the animation himself as well, with a little bit being outsourced to Toei Animation Philippines.
Yep. This is Yoshima being Yoshima, doing his lovely thing of just sitting down and scribbling out an entire episode, which is, I don't know. I usually say it helps the arc. It helps the upcoming episodes. I don't think it really did that much, but it's a fun episode. It doesn't look that bad because the chief supervisor Takeo Ide does basically, I don't know. I don't want to say corrects every scene, but he does quite a lot at least. You don't really see a whole lot of Yoshima in this episode, which is nice because he's not the best.
He really isn't. He actually doesn't even pop up that much in this arc in general, as much as you think he would.
No, that's true. He does an episode later on, but again, Tsuji. We spoke so much about Tsuji in the Battle of Gods video, so yeah, that's not going to change. Like the more arcs we cover, I think the further we get into Super, the more we're going to be talking about Tsuji because she's just everywhere. She starts growing. She just starts engulfing the series.
She even animated an ending now, which is practically unheard of.
Yeah,
for anyone other than Yamamuro.
It's mad. I don't know where Yamamuro is, but whatever. Yeah. Tsuji can animate more endings. That's fine by me.
Yeah, her style looks nice at least.
It is. It's nice and, well, I was going to say it's nice and bubbly and fun, but then I also don't like Yamamuro for being bubbly as well. But then
it's bubbly, but it's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun at all.
Yeah. Another thing that episode 15 gives us, or at least me, an opportunity to talk about is Yoshima's storyboards. Because for some people who might not be aware, Yoshima also likes to do storyboards. But more often than not, he does storyboards for episodes outside of his own. This is one of like 2 or 3 episodes that he supervises where he also does the storyboards.
Which is really strange for a solo animator. Yeah. Like they tend to do everything. Like when people say this is a solo episode, they mean they very literally storyboarded it and supervised it and animated it all themselves. And I guess the fact he hasn't been able to do that all that much says a lot about what the series was like at this point. But yeah,
and I guess the fact that he also storyboards for like episodes outside of his own also is a testament again to just how much he's able to do, because I mean he's able to basically plot out other episodes while also working on his own episode.
He's definitely speedy. Things I don't know. I'm so bad at paying attention to storyboards. Like unless it's like a super like massive standout one like your Hatsuno Morio ones, then I just don't really look at them at all. So I probably wouldn't be able to watch an episode and be like, yeah, this is him.
Yeah, I mean, Ishima's super storyboards are like really standard. He did in the Battle of Gods arc, just for an example, he did episode 4, which was actually a fun one.
Right.
And episode 10, which is a standard action episode, he doesn't do like crazy angles or anything like that. He's not the greatest storyboard artist out there, but it gets the job done.
Just serviceable. That's all right then. That's good. As long as he doesn't do the Yamamura thing of just having everything flat and boring. Then
yeah.
To be fair, right? To be fair, I'm gonna take this opportunity to praise Yamamura a little bit, because as much as I shit on him, I've tried not to, because I've sort of gotten into that mindset where if you just say the same things over and over and over again, then people just get sick of you. And I've definitely found that. I know that there's certain people who tend to, at every opportunity, just pop up to say like the same negative thing over and over and over about someone, and it's not fun. So I'm gonna do my best to avoid that. And Yamamura's storyboards obviously the Resurrection F film is not well storyboarded. I don't really like it at all. Outside of a couple of scenes sort of towards the end, but the F special is surprisingly well storyboarded, and I don't know. I guess maybe because part of it is based on the manga, but then I don't know. There are sort of some bits towards the end, especially that are really really nicely done. So props to him if you know they came from his head.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like whenever he does pop up now, it seems like he's improving a little bit.
Yeah, just a tiny
pieces.
fraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
If he suddenly pops up and like his character art it like makes the jump that Shimanuki's did recently, then I might explode. But
I mean, I miss
don't know
miss
about
old
that.
Yamamuro a lot.
I do.
I love old Yamamuro.
Speaking of old character designs, God, that segue. Episode 16.
Yeah. I love episode 16 so much.
The best episode. So good.
Shuichi Iseki, who is the animation supervisor for this, he looked at the cell arc and was like, I liked how they looked back then, so I'm gonna draw them like that.
There's just like there was no adherence to Yamamura here outside of maybe like I think there are like maybe 3 or 4 tiny scenes sort of in the second half that are on model, and then the rest of it is just like, nope, we're going back to the 90s, boys, let's go.
Yeah.
And so that's fun. But yeah, so episode 16 is really just, it's like I just revamped the animation supervisor thread, and the top bullet point on my entry for this is a golden standard for modern Dragon Ball content, which is it's such an overblown description, but it is so strong, and I guess I would describe it as sort of what Dragon Ball would look like if it was done by a studio a studio that allows staff to sort of be creative. If Dragon Ball wasn't under sort of the thumb of sort of the people who have made it so creatively stagnant for sort of the past 15 years or so, this would be how cool it would look. Because even though, and that sounds weird because we've just said, oh, this is old school, and yet you're saying it's now innovative or something, but it's old school, but it also feels new. Like it respects the old character designs, but it feels fresh. And I guess the reason for that is that this is not really a Toei episode. Basically, it's a Gainax and it's a Studio Trigger episode. These are the studios behind sort of Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann. Big sort of super famous series with fantastic animation, and the cast list, the staff list rather, the animators on this episode are all sort of very big names. Well, not all of them are massive names, but they're all animators with very solid resumes on lots of big shows, things like One Punch Man and Kill la Kill and all that good stuff. Hisashi Mori, especially, he's basically the biggest name on this. I don't know, I have no idea what he did, which is a shame because he's usually so recognizable, but just the fact that his name is on here just kind of makes me happy. So
definitely, yeah. I never thought I'd see that at all.
It's funny, I forgot, like I made such a fool out of myself on Twitter recently because that's what I was doing. I was going over my animation catalog, and I got to episode 16, looked at the staff list, saw Hisashi Mori, and was like, oh my god, how did I miss this? And then I googled like Hisashi Mori Dragon Ball Super, and like the top result is a post by me going, oh my god, it's Hisashi Mori. I'm sat there like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm an idiot.
I didn't forget, but I did forget at the same time.
I know, it's just, brain fart.
It happens. That's Twitter for you. But yeah, this episode is, I love it so much. I mean, there's just the character acting in particular. There's just like so many funny faces, and God, I just love it. Yeah, it's like there are small portions of action in it which are really well done. It's so expressive, and the character art is just to die for.
It's out of this world. Like I so wish that this is what Super looked like, but oh well. Yeah. It wasn't to be.
Some people have likened it to Studio Cockpit.
Yeah, you can definitely see that, and especially sort of in the second half when Whis shows up. That's definitely very, very cockpit like, especially the ears. They have that weird shape to them. That's good fun.
Definitely. So we're moving on to 17, which is less fun, but not bad.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes that you wouldn't be you could be forgiven for forgetting. It's fun, but there's nothing about it that kind of goes, oh my god, this is like the landmark episode. It's just, I don't know, it's just whatever.
It's a setup.
It is, and I guess the stuff kind of reflects that. There's not a whole lot going on here. It's Osamu Ishikawa and Shiryo Wampak, with Yui Kinoshita from there supervising as well. They did 167 cuts according to my guide, so that's fun. Yeah. I still have no idea what Kinoshita style looks like, but
I don't either.
Well,
we got really fooled with, I think, the next episode preview for, what episode was it? 60?
Yeah, episode 60. Yeah,
where we assumed that there were many instances in which characters were drawn with like these really gorgeous thick lines, and we're like, is that Kinoshita? But
yeah, I was getting so excited. I was like, oh, have we discovered a new supervisor who's been here forever and we just never noticed? But no, it's just, I have no idea. It's still a mystery to me. But yeah, episode 17. So it's very rudimentary. I think the only interesting thing is the fact that Masahiro Shimanuki, another supervisor on Super, is the top credited key animator here, which is strange. But outside of like a couple of scenes where his sort of proportions and weird ears are there, you wouldn't really be able to tell. Ishikawa does his thing. Everything's on model. It's just it's a by the numbers episode. It looks fine. There's nothing bad to say about it really, and there's nothing standout about it.
No, this was the episode that we were referring to previously when we mentioned the other episode that had vehicle animation, because there's a chase scene.
Yeah, that's true.
It was basically the scene from the movie where Kurodin was chasing, the robbers, but I guess this time Bulma decided to follow after him.
Nice. You got that pronunciation down perfectly. I've tried. I cannot do it without sounding like an idiot.
What?
Krillin. I just say Krillin. I've tried to like adopt the actual pronunciation. No, it doesn't work. Not with my accent. You nailed it. You did it fine.
I still can't say Goku, really.
I switch between the two. Sound.
Yeah. I try all the time, but I fail.
I'm just going to accept that I grew up with the dub and just leave it at that. even if I dislike the dub, I grew up with it, and yeah, whatever.
It'll slip out sometimes, even if you don't want it to.
Well, as long as I don't come out with Destructo Disc, I think we're fine.
Oh, God. But yeah, 17, really safe one. Nothing bad, nothing great either. Just solid.
Yep, which is very different from the next one. Good old episode 18, or our buddy Naoki Tate pops up and does his thing.
God, I need Church of Tate t-shirts.
I should make them. But there's like one picture of Tate out there, and it's like so old. And it's like so low res. And he looks like someone just went, hey Tate, and then took the photo as he's like half turning around. He's like, what? He looks so blazed. It's unreal.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, 18 is wonderful. I love 18 so much. And it's like, I guess in the same way, except in a good way, where episode 9 was like Yashima, like, hey, this is the real me. 18 is like Tate saying, hey, this is the real me.
It is, yeah. You suddenly get like all of the traits that kind of become, well, I guess they were his thing in episode 5, but you didn't really see it all that much. Whereas here it's like, hi guys, here's my cool flapping mouths and big old ears and cool action and stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, this is me if I had more time to do stuff. I still don't have a great amount of time, but it's a little bit more than what I had.
It's cool, but it's also the episode that really fucked me over for a really long time because we kind of we use this as like, this is Tate when he's not being forced to scribble out lengthy action scenes. This is him when he gets to polish his character art, and like that is true to an extent. But Suji, good old Suji, we're talking about her again.
Yeah.
she corrects. She doesn't apply like major redraws like she tends to do later in Super, but there are definitely a lot of scenes here where you can see that she's maybe like touched up an eyebrow or sort of redrawn a nose or maybe, you know, touched up a face shape. And so it's like this weird mix between Tate and Tsuji that for a long time I just called, you know, Tate with time, which was a bit silly because that style tends to pop up a lot, and I'm sat there thinking there's no way Tate does this much. So yeah, that was fun, but thankfully we got over that and we worked it out.
Yeah, I'm surprised we never caught her sooner, considering just how much she shows up.
Yeah, I think it's because I spent a long time because when I sort of fell in love with animation, Super didn't exist, so I was just watching Z and Dragon Ball and GT or whatever, and you just sort of you only pay attention to the supervisor there because that's kind of the only credit that really mattered that much, because they were very heavy corrections, and like even if individual styles did come through in places, you know, if the supervisor was essentially the look of the episode. And so when it came to Super, that was kind of what I was doing again, and basically just ignoring the fact that, hey, you know, this is 2015, 2016 now, and the chief animation supervisor credit exists. Like there's now another person's style that you need to be aware of. And so it was definitely like oh shit, you've been looking at this wrong. And so it was nice to finally learn that.
Another thing that I love about 18 is that it's the very rare opportunity that Tate has to do a character-driven episode. And like he does character acting so well. He does, yeah. To show it off.
Very true. We talk so much about Tate, the action animator. He's amazing, but we talk about how full of expression his work is as well. But it's so rare, like you say, that he does character work, and so it's kind of like this and episode 32, I think, where he does character stuff, and it's great. It's like, hey, I do expressions, you know, I have very sort of expression-filled action, but now here's people pulling funny faces and you know, moving in cool ways. Like it's perfect.
Yeah, there are so many just so silly faces with like really, really big mouths, and it's just hilarious to look at them.
Yeah, it's great. No, I do like this episode, and oh shit! So I just noticed the one of my notes. It's so funny that I'm like reading my own notes and going, oh shit! I just remembered something. I didn't realize this was Tsuji's first time supervising Tate. So
yeah,
I guess that makes sense why I was like, oh, that must be him then. So that's okay. I feel a little bit less silly now.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say on this. I guess the only other thing is that it kind of throws Yamamoto's models out of the window for the most part, aside from sort of a couple of people like Jin Inaba and Satsuki Aizu, who you can sort of kind of see them very, very, very slightly right towards the end of the episode. But other than that, it's sort of Tate and Tsuji through and through.
There actually was one more thing I wanted to bring up before we moved on. Sure. And that was Vegeta and Goku training with Whis when they were fighting.
Yeah,
and I think that's an interesting talking point, because I think the action in that segment brings up I think a somewhat fair criticism of Tate, and that sometimes his action is overly smeary.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that, and that's something that I didn't want to commit to my catalog, because I part of me thinks maybe that was originally animated by Kitano and then corrected by Tate. That's my guess, just because it doesn't move like Tate really. That's the only reason that I would think that, and because Kitano is third credited for the episodes. I may be entirely wrong, but that's just like that's like this one scene that just feels so weird. And yeah, I don't know whether Kitano just handed in this very sort of stiff action scene and Tate went nope and then just scribbled over it, and maybe that's why it's I don't know. I mean, that I have no idea. Maybe Tate just delivered a bad action scene. I don't know.
It could be, but I think part of it might be because of that weird blur effect that they use, and it really doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know what it is, but I think it wasn't that prevalent in in the first arc. And then when it came to the Blu-ray corrections, they suddenly started using it, and then basically from then on, loads of stuff was just blurred. It was like, why are you doing this? Stop.
It doesn't look good at all.
No, it's horrible, and the blur effect like extends more than just like people moving fast or whatever. Like if you look at the smoke, they in a lot of shows, the cool thing about seeing smoke is that you can see these really cool shapes that people like when animators draw smoke, they have unique ways of drawing like the billowing cloud, and the way it's colored in Super, they blur the edges. And so it it looks more like smoke now, but you lose some of that that personality, which is what made 61 cool, because you had that Kawasawa scene it was like, hey, you didn't blur any edges, and now the smoke looks really cool. But anyway, that's just a random tangent. The blur is too much. I don't like it, and I wish it didn't exist.
Definitely. I guess one more little fun tidbit to throw in there before we move on is that now Toshishita storyboarded it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
that's great.
Which is interesting. All right. Episode 19, which... Poor Kitano.
Yeah, poor Kitano.
I do feel bad for him, because they're like, okay, so you're going to do a lot of animation for episode 18, right? But you're also going to supervise episode 19. And do a lot of animation for that one too. It's like
you're not just gonna animate on 18, and you're not just gonna supervise 19. You're gonna essentially solo animate 19. Have fun.
He did so much.
Okay, yeah. So, but what's weird is that even though obviously Yamamuro is credited, and you also have like Office DCI and Toei Animation Philippines, I don't really feel them in the episode. Like you feel Yamamuro for like, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds of a fight scene in the first half, and then he just vanishes, and everything else just looks like Kitano. It's so bizarre. So yeah, I don't know why they suddenly decided that Kitano was going to do what was, I don't want to say solo episode, because it's not a solo episode, but it's close just looking at it.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess I can kind of see why Yamamuro randomly popped up for this one for like 20 seconds for some reason, because I guess poor Kitano, he needed help. Like, someone please help this guy.
Please make this fight scene look okay, please.
Yeah, because it did start off really bad too. Like it was that training sequence at the start which was probably Kitano, looked really stiff, but then Yamamuro came in, made it still stiff, but it looked better.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's the thing. Like I'm gonna praise Yamamuro some more. Oh my god, what is wrong with me? Am I feeling okay? If your show has character designs by Yamamuro, and you're gonna try and draw like him, I would much rather them actually look like good attempts at those designs than bad ones, which is what he's doing. Like when I look at Shimanuki or Tate, those are people who aren't listening to Yamamuro's designs at all. So it doesn't matter what they do; they're doing their own thing, and more power to them. But if you're going to try and very, very clearly attempt to stick to the character sheets, and you do it badly, well, that's not fun. I don't enjoy that.
Definitely. There's not really a whole lot else to talk about in 19, because I guess you could say it was like the first quote unquote bad Kitano episode. Like this is where, like, I guess the real him started showing up, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I guess it's where we got like a slight inkling that, okay, maybe Kitano is not really equipped to work under a lot of pressure. Yeah, and I guess the only other thing I would say is that even though this episode has its own storyboard credit, it was by Kohei Hatano, it just borrows so much from the movie. Like this is essentially a 1-to-1 remake of parts of Resurrection F. Like there's so little in here that actually is different compositionally from the film. So I don't really know why they bothered.
I don't know. I guess it helped a little bit. They probably needed like, okay, we just need some extra scenes in here. Let's just borrow them from the movie.
Yeah, save a bit of time.
Yeah. 19. It was a thing.
It was a thing that existed, and it was okay. And I just pretend it doesn't exist, because at this point all of these episodes are just in my recycle bin, and I've got the movie Blu-ray in the drive.
Yep, it's all downhill from here. Well, except maybe for 20, where things get a little bit better for Shimanuki at least.
Yeah, very slightly.
Very slightly. But yeah, episode 20, animation supervisor Masahiro Shimanuki, and like you note here on your lovely little notes, this is the first time he does key animation as well as supervising,
which is so weird, so strange. I don't know why he didn't. I mean, I guess he technically did some, because there are very clearly some tiny little scenes like scattered throughout his episodes that, or like they almost have to be animated by him. Like there's no way they're just corrections, surely. But yeah, this is the first time that we definitely see Shimanuki's very typical stiff animation coming through, because dear God, it's so.
The Goku versus Vegeta is so stiff.
Yeah, like I talk so much about how Yamamuro is stiff and lifeless, but there is no one who comes close to how stiff Shimanuki is at animating. Like, I may praise the ever-loving shit out of his character art, especially now that it's like back to where he was in Z, but my God, he cannot animate. He can't. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like arms don't move like that. There's no like, the movements don't feel human. It feels like someone's like taking an arm and just like pulling it with some string back and forth, and like when you pull your arm back, right, like part of your chest pulls back with the arm, and but like if Shimanuki's animating that, like the chest is not going to move. Like the arm is just going to, the arm just like kind of slides back, and it's like it's so weird looking, and it's just it's not great. No, so if Shimanuki's doing stuff, I'd much rather he stick to like explosions, which obviously he can still do because he did that recently, which looked pretty nice. I'd much rather he just stick to correcting stuff, because dear God, this guy's character art is fantastic these days, and it's not that good here, but this is sort of like one of the earlier episodes where you can see he's sort of starting to come back to sort of some of the traits that he was so known for back in Z, like the sort of like the cheek indents and like the ears and stuff like that. It's all starting to feel a little bit more like him.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, there's not much else to talk about. This was really standard, pretty safe.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's going to be sort of a bit of a recurring theme throughout some of these episodes, because like the arc, like none of these episodes as we were coming into this F arc were like terrible. They were all sort of just like sort of ranging from sort of okay to okay, this is pretty cool. Like the outside of that one Kitano solo episode, which wasn't terrible, but it was sort of below the average that had been set so far. Like most of them they're just fine. Like they're inoffensive. They're just okay.
For sure. Which is the same thing with 21. And the weird thing about 21 is that it took what was, I guess, one of the few parts I liked about the Resurrection F movie, or at least was fun watching it, which was the fight between everyone and the Frieza soldiers, and made it kind of not as fun. Yeah, this is like the episode where you go, oh yeah, I'm watching a weekly TV series. Fuck.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, this was to me. This was like the big sort of okay. This is super. We've just had a string of episodes which were sort of fun, either sort of fun alternatives or expansions on the movie that worked reasonably well, or just sort of slightly fell under the average. And then you hit this episode, which is obviously where the fight scenes begin in the movie. And you're just like, oh, okay, this is this is a TV show. This is a show that has a very strict schedule and not many talented animators. And the thing is that like the action in this episode really isn't that bad.
No.
But it absolutely cannot compare to something of that scale from a film. So yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't like the episode that much. The only thing that really, really does stick out to me in this episode is the storyboard, because to me, this was sort of one of the weakest areas in the film storyboard-wise. It was very flat and not a whole lot going on interesting sorry, not a whole lot of interesting compositions here, and yet in this episode, dear God, everything looked great. Like there's so many interesting angles. Like there's if you compare the Kamehameha from Kame Sennin in the film to the one in this episode, it's night and day. Like in the film, it's just this flat, boring sort of low angle, and yet in this, it's like I think it's slightly sort of canted, and it's like really extreme, and I don't know, just it works so much better.
Yeah. Do you know who the storyboard artist was? It was Yushima.
Was it really?
It was Yushima, yeah.
Huh. Well, there we go.
There you go.
There's me saying, oh, he doesn't stand out to me. No, here we go. This is the one I remember.
To be fair, I did that too, but I think it was a standout one from him. He definitely did. I was noticing that too while I was watching. I was like, this was at least storyboarded better than the film was. It really was.
Definitely. I think we forgot to say who was animating this. The supervisors were Shuichiro Manabe, Tatsuya Oka, and then Kazuhiro Koyama.
I accidentally, glanced over that.
That's fine. Was this their first episode since 14?
I do believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the first episode where you're starting to really see Manabe sort of working out his style, because I feel like he's someone, and I guess we haven't really spoken about this much, in that when an animator gets onto a show, they don't necessarily know exactly how they want to draw things. Like maybe they start off quite safe, maybe they then start to try something different. Very few animators kind of hop on and have this distinctive look. Not unless you're someone like Yoshidas, like your Tates, who are famous for how their unique styles. And so I think Manabe is definitely someone who has begun to really blossom now in Super, and so this is sort of the start of it. And then I guess we'll talk about his episode later in 27 where it evolves even more. So
definitely. Oh, and I forgot about this, but this is the thing that I actually really hate about this episode, and it's where it starts doing the key blast spam over and over.
Oh God!
And it was actually funny how they did it in this episode, because it was near the end. I think they were getting ready to fight Shisami. It was right before that, but everyone was doing like their signature attacks, and then you get to Gohan, who just did key blast spams.
It's just so awkward.
It was really awkward. They even reused it twice.
Yeah. No, that was not good.
No, it wasn't. And they use a spam attack like that in every episode from this arc, like starting from this one. It's in every episode.
Yeah, that's the worst. I guess before we move on, actually, I think it's important to mention that this is, being like the big sort of first fight scene, this is where we start to see what is going to become a big trend throughout all of the action in this arc. Everything is outsourced. My God, there's so much outsourcing.
Good God.
So this episode has, let's see, Studio Graffiti, Art Base Ban, Seigasha, Net Animation, Nakamura Production, and Changzhou Dodo. I don't know how you pronounce these Chinese names, but
I don't know either.
Yeah, so much outsourcing. My God. And yeah, that's gonna pop up a lot once we get to the big action scenes.
Yeah. All right, episode 22.
I like this episode.
Yeah,
I like it a lot,
too.
Actually.
It's surprisingly solid. It was Yoshima was the animation supervisor for this one, and this was also like one of the first times he had like other like named people working with him for key animation that weren't like studios.
Yeah, he had actual staff with him. Wow.
Right. Even Suji like actually did her own key animation this time around.
And it looks really good.
It does. She did the torture scene near the end, I believe.
Yeah. Very, very nice. Even though it wasn't packed to the brim with, action scenes, the tiny bits that there were okay. I mean, they don't compare to sort of where we're at now in Super. Like it's hard to really compare, Super in its current state, where like the schedule is not catastrophically terrible and we actually have decent animators now. This is sort of okay for what the series was like at the time. And I guess what's also interesting is that we talk a lot about we didn't really get to see Yoshima until XY points. he definitely, his style definitely changed as it went throughout the series. Like, even though there are certain things that have remained the same, like the way he draws ears has been fairly consistent. This is where he starts to get really, really angular, like really angular,
Yeah.
and noses become like super pointy and stuff like that. And it just gets sort of progressively more and more pointy from this point onwards. And then sort of towards this later arc, which obviously we'll cover at some point in the future, it loosens a little bit, which is nice.
Definitely. And there was a part where Gohan kicked Tagomaginyu, and it looked like something straight out of One Piece.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Oh god, I remember people arguing with me about that. I was like, it looks like Sanji going in for one of his kicks, and like people are just saying, no, it's just off model. I'm like, no, I understand that it's off model, but those proportions and like that particular pose is so One Piece looking to me.
Definitely. This was also a Shida storyboard. This would be the last time he would storyboard for Super so far.
Yeah, so this must have been when he went off to start working on One Piece Film Gold.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, God, I want to see that film, but
I haven't seen it yet.
No, do you know what's so weird? And I only found this out 2 days ago. Is that, how like Dragon Ball will air, Dragon Ball films will like come out in like April, and then they'll be on Blu-ray in like September or something. One Piece films can take up to like 11 months to come out. Like, what? That's so weird.
I never noticed that.
And so One Piece Film Gold obviously came out a while ago, and I'm like, oh, it's just going to come out on Blu-ray like around this time of year, surely. And I find out that it's not out until I think it was December 26th or something,
really?
Which is so long. It's so weird. But apparently that's like the norm for One Piece. So I don't know. That's so weird to me. But yeah, I'm desperate to see it because Shida is like one of the top credited animators on the film. So apparently he just did loads.
Yeah, I saw some of his cuts and they were fantastic.
I haven't seen any yet. I've been keeping myself spoiler free.
I spoiled myself. I do that.
Oh well, I'm looking forward to them though. I hear they're all fantastic. So
definitely. All right, episode 23. It was Ishikawa and Yui Kinoshita duo again. It was I guess it was mostly safe, but there was also like a lot of really bad stuff. Even though I say that, like for example, when Gohan was powering up to call Goku there.
Yeah, it's an odd episode. Like how do I even put this into words? Okay, it's inconsistent. I guess is the best way to put it. So Ishikawa doesn't really feel like he's there that much. I don't really know what specifically he animated himself. Like, even though he's the top credited key animator, I'm not really 100% on what he animated. And so my guess is that he was probably the one who actually animated the Gohan power up. A lot of people, including myself for a while, assumed that was Tate just based on sort of the way the smoke was drawn, but on closer inspection, like, there's no way that's actually him.
No.
And so the fact that Gohan looks so young there, like, my guess is that may probably have been Ishikawa, just because that tends to be what he likes to do. Yeah, he keeps characters looking pretty young. So I don't know. I just sort of, that's a total guess by me, but I feel like that may well be him. But yeah, I think the second half falls to pieces, Definitely. Drastically. It looks so bad. I remember thinking, wow, this looks like, the worst Ebisawa episodes from Z. And that's when I started assuming that Kinoshita was just awful, but when really I don't really know what she draws like. But yeah, no, the most interesting part, and no, I'm excited to talk about it. It's Naoki Tate's presence. He does the Frieza transformation, which is just so much better than the film. For the most part,
it was done so much better, and part of that is due to the storyboarding.
Yeah, God, that storyboard is good.
Yeah, and we were actually talking about this a little bit before we started our first video, just talking about it. And they use perspective really, really well, in a way that you don't see that much, even just in Dragon Ball, where after he powers up, he transforms. You just see this giant crater in the ground.
like the way everything was framed, you got that sense of scale, which I think was really lacking from Resurrection F. Like if you think to the film, there is a crater like as soon as the fight begins, but you're never really you're given shots that look like telephoto lens, like everything's like zoomed in from far away, and that doesn't really give you a sense of scale. Whereas here, it's like these big sort of vast wide angle shots, which really shows you how like momentous this thing is.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's interesting, and I have no idea whether this is like a Tate thing or whether it's a Kaizawa storyboard thing, but when Frieza transforms, there's a bit where sort of Goku and Vegeta react, like they pop up and sort of twist their heads, and then like the camera starts pulling back between all of the different characters in the scene, and obviously Tate animates it absolutely perfectly, but that kind of camera work you just don't see in Dragon Ball, and you don't really see it that much in many regular anime too. So that was just so surprising. I really like that scene.
I probably should have actually been the one that brought that up, because me of all people, I've been doing research on Kaizawa. This is the first time that he actually shows up the storyboard for a Super episode.
Oh, is this his first time? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and
that's a good way to make your mark.
Definitely. A lot of those things that you're talking about, like the use of the digital zoom in and zoom out, those are definitely him. He's been, I want to say it was around Saint Seiya Omega is when he started doing that. He seems to take a lot of inspiration from Hitano himself. For example, one thing Kaizawa likes to do a lot, and one thing most people know him for, is when characters are fighting and they'll have reflections of each other in their eyes. That's something that he does, and that was something that popped up in episode 6 of Super, which was Hitano.
Yeah, this was Morio Hitano, wasn't it? Not Kohei. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I forget that there's 2 of them.
Yeah. People get confused all the time. I'm like, it's Morio, that's the one. He's good. Yeah. Yeah, and so like the I guess the last thing to mention before we move on is probably just going back to Tate real quick, is that even he animated the Frieza transformation, which looked great. Obviously had great use of the storyboard we just talked about, but then I'm pretty sure he also did the very short fight scene of Goku and Vegeta inside not Trunks, Whis' staff thing. Sorry, I'm fucking future Trunks arc in my head. Inside Whis' staff. It's really short. It doesn't look like Tate. It's very heavily corrected. So I assume that Ishikawa, drew over it just to make sure that it, was on point. Because I'm just going to take a wild guess that it took a massive backseat to the big, point of his presence on the episode. So. Yeah, I mean, I can't confirm it, but it just moves, like him, has its traits. So that's my assumption.
We've speculated that he also did the little part where like Goku and Vegeta are running away from Beerus, and like he chases them into the woods, and there's explosions, and the smoke looks like him as well.
Yeah, I have no idea on that. I don't want to like credit him too much. Just like, oh, Tate's on the episode. Well, he must have done all of the good bits. But yeah, no, he 100% definitely did the Frieza transformation. I'm fairly sure he did the fight. I had no idea. I'd have to go back and check the running bit.
It must have been at least significant.
Yeah, to be second credited, almost definitely. Yeah.
We said poor Katana before, but. This is the worst thing that's happened to Kitano in Super so far, and that's episode 24.
Yeah, this is just like people talk about episode 5 being the worst animated episode of Super. No,
it's
no,
it's definitely 24.
Yeah, I don't think anything comes close to 24. Maybe what was it, 33?
Maybe.
But this is something special, and not in a good way.
There was, I even tried to watch it, like maybe like not trying to. Okay, don't just watch this thinking like, oh god, it's the worst thing ever. But like I couldn't do it. It was just so bad, even now.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to really blame Kitano because
it's not his fault.
Like his last episode was episode 19,
he did so
and
much
now
for
he's
it.
working on 24.
Yeah.
He did key animation on 18, and then he almost soloed 19, and then he has to have episode 24 ready in. I mean, what's
Poor
that?
guy.
that's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But you also have to consider that someone has to do the storyboard, and they have to have time for post-production and recording, and so he has to do the big major fight scene of this arc and himself, and it just falls to pieces. It's horribly animated. There's no good animation. The character art is bad. It's just abysmal.
Yeah. I think something that'll never stop making me laugh is when Frieza tries to shoot some key blasts over at Bulma, and like Vegeta's this is when they were shooting blasts at each other, and like they were getting caught in the crossfire, and Vegeta's standing on the ground like deflecting the key blast, and he's just kind of waving his arm around.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's like Shimanuki levels of weird animation where like the body doesn't move and it's just like an arm kind of wobbling around, and the art is so bad.
Oh my god. There really isn't anything like even remotely presentable in this episode until the end, which was the transformation.
I feel so bad because obviously, it's not Kitano's fault. He got absolutely fucked by the schedule.
So bad.
Like so bad. This is one of the most unfair cases since episode 5. Like people are always asking like, how did this happen? How did this happen? It's like because they got overworked. They were expected to do too much in too little time. I don't know. I just feel bad for him. Really, it's a shame.
But yeah, the transformation, the Super Saiyan Blue transformation at the end looks pretty presentable, and that's because Suji corrected pretty much all of it, or at least most of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think aside from, I think it's like the last scene where Goku's arm becomes like 8 times bigger than anything else on his body. And like everything before that is nice. Good old Suji.
Definitely, she probably couldn't correct as much either, since she had to do key animation in other episodes as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame, but oh well, it is what it is. People just tend to forget that the Resurrection F arc exists. I think it's because so many people dropped the series at this point. Like they were so done after after Battle of Gods that they just got to this arc and went, nope, I'm done, and then just stopped and then came back at Universe 6. So I think the reason this episode doesn't get as much flack is it just wasn't. It's not like episode 5 where loads of people were tuning in at the time because it was so new. This is the bad one that came along when people just had lost all hope.
Yeah, we were pretty much just used to like episodes looking bad at this point and just being really stiff and lifeless.
Yeah.
So one thing that a lot of people like to complain about with this episode is that it wasn't touched up at all for the Blu-rays. And while it definitely could use some fine-tuning, to put it mildly, to save this episode you'd practically have to reanimate it. Like it's just that bad.
Yeah, like it's not like episode 5 where like Tate went in and like sort of redid tiny little bits of motion here and there that weren't great, or like redrew some keyframes. Like the the animation here to the core is bad. Like you there is no way you could fix this without a full-on reanimation correction, which it's not unheard of. Like correction very literally means you're just correcting what's on the screen. It's not necessarily just a redraw, but the Super doesn't have that much stuff to begin with, so to take focus away from the new content, just I guess that's why it happened. I'm kind of annoyed that they didn't do something, but
yeah, I mean I am too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but I guess I can just excuse it. Yeah, not excuse it, understand it. Yeah. There you go.
Because I mean, corrections don't just pop up out of thin air. You have to take animators who could be working on your show right now and take them away to do it. Yeah,
it's why you see we've spoken about how like Ide as a chief supervisor doesn't do as much correction work as Suji, and like Tate has X number of weeks to do whatever episode. It's like I think it's reasons like that. Like Ide is probably busy doing Blu-ray stuff, which is why he doesn't maybe correct as much in some of these episodes that you see later on around the time the Blu-ray was coming out. And then obviously Tate has loads of free time, so that's why he corrects. Like you're always pulling people away, and when you do that, then their presence is limited in the newer stuff. So Yeah, you're just kind of fighting a battle at all times there.
Well, I think we've complained about that one enough. We're on to 25, which had 3 animation supervisors. We had Masahiro Shimanuki, Yoshito Narimatsu, and Makoto Tanoe.
Yep.
And I think Narimatsu and Tanoe, these are like the only episodes they've done, right?
Yeah, I'm just like assuming that they're from one of the studios that are outsourced. Like you have Maisie and J-Cube and Toei Animation Philippines all credited in this episode. So I'm assuming they came from somewhere. I don't know. I'd have to check, but I'm just assuming the fact that like there are assistant animation supervisors on here as well, and I have no idea who they are either. They must have come from somewhere, because like the actual staff list, the key animators, you only have, I think, let's see, five key animators who I think are associated with Toei. I know at least 3 of them are. And this is an action episode. That's not really that many, especially on a schedule this small. So yeah, I guess they just needed all the help they can get, and that means, hey, external studios, come help us, even if you're not very good.
Yes, we just need all hands on deck. It doesn't matter how competent they are.
I mean, that aside, like the first half of this episode is honestly okay. I actually liked it. Yeah, it's good. Like Shimanuki is sort of really coming into his own at this point. Like we spoke a lot about how his proportions were very, very off in the Battle of Gods arc. You know, presumably from all of those years on One Piece. I think he worked for like 15 years on that show, and so this is sort of where things aren't perfect. Definitely not perfect, but they are really, really, really coming close to some of his Z work. So that's cool, and I don't think anyone draws Frieza as well as Shimanuki, so that's nice to see.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and Shimanuki animates an okay short little action cut around the halfway point, I think. And we talk about how wooden his animation is. It's still stiff here, but it's actually not that bad. It's sort of just about okay. It's the kind of thing that Super really needed at this point, so that was nice to see.
Definitely. His shading in particular was really on point. It looked really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Again, on Frieza, like he's so good at drawing Frieza. I love it.
I love his Frieza.
I don't even know, like I don't know what's so different about it, but it just I think it's maybe because like all of the muscles feel like they're how do I even put this into words? They feel like they're all connected and joined together properly. They don't just feel like they're drawn on. That sounds so silly. That sounds like that's the worst description ever. But that's the only way I can really like put it into some sort of words.
And Koji Nashizawa actually did a lot of key animation for this one as well. He was top credited actually.
So we just saw him this week as an animation supervisor, and I didn't actually go and look at this episode to find his style, which reminds me that I still haven't done the entry for that episode yet. Whoops. But did you notice him at all? Did you go back and look?
Not really.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, so I guess the main thing to talk about is the second half of this episode where everything falls apart. And like Shimanuki is nowhere to be found, and it's just really terrible animation and terrible art, and it's just bad enough that it was corrected on Blu-ray by Takeo Ide and Naoki Tate. Definitely. And their corrections are pretty significant, but not actually that much better. Which I guess says a lot. I think it was a very rushed job, but it was at least a slight improvement, not a major one, but good enough. I think it feels like a finished episode now, whereas before it felt like, okay, the first half looks finished, then you get to the second half and like the shading is just totally missing, and it just feels so bad.
Yeah, the only thing that felt prioritized in any way, shape, or form was a brief little scene with Champa and Vados when they showed up for a little bit. Yeah, that's true. And this was also the episode with that infamous scene with Frieza walking out of the smoke, and it's like he's drawn so poorly. And yeah, he has like massive thighs and like a tiny waist, and then just huge shoulders. Yeah. It's so bizarre looking. And he like
well, he pops down into like that weird pose, and everyone put like magician hats and wands in his hand and stuff, which was just wonderful. And then so like Tate redrew that for the Blu-ray, and like it's so Tate, but it's so like he drew Frieza like this just slimy, horrible looking beast thing, and like I love that, but dear God, does it stick out among everything else?
It really does.
That's funny, but I like it because I'm an unashamed Tate fanboy.
And that actually is a good segue for us to talk about the most. Even the second half can't ruin just how good the first half of episode 26 is.
Yeah, the first half of episode 26 is just like it's just Tate. Like I don't think anyone but him touched that first half, and I don't think Tate gave a fuck about like I think he just sat down and went, I don't really care if this looks like Dragon Ball. I don't care. I have to get this episode done, and I want to do something fun, so I'm just going to draw these characters how I want. They're going to move how I want, and let's go. And that's what he does. And the actual Goku versus Frieza bits, yeah, it does look like Dragon Ball, which is good, and it moves really, really well. But then you get like these shots of like Krillin and Gohan and like Bulma, and it's so like they're so simplified and Hosoda-esque, and it's like, okay, cool, this is just unrefined Tate. Not unrefined, maybe just let loose, just doing whatever he wants.
Almost completely unfiltered.
That's the word I was looking for. There you go.
And I liked a lot of his drawings, honestly. Even as rough as they were, I liked them.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I'm not going to pretend that I want the series to look like this. Like as much as I love Tate, and as much as I want animators to express themselves, the show does need to look like the show to an extent. I think it does slip too much into him, doing what he wants here, which it's fine considering these circumstances, but it's not something that you can really do all of the time.
No, nice.
Yeah, I definitely for 15 minutes of an episode, that's wonderful. That's a nice treat, especially in an arc that was just dreadful. Like who cares if it doesn't, if it's not super Dragon Ball like for most of it, as long as it actually looks good by most standards, which it does, so that's fine. Yeah, and then of course it just falls to pieces in the second half because, dear God, so much outsourcing. That is this arc in a nutshell. Outsource. Half an episode looks good, the rest of it looks like shit.
Yeah, and like they even basically make a note like the animation supervisors were outsourced from Frontier Engine, and like they're separately credited.
Yeah, like normally it's like assistant animation supervisor, and you have a couple of names here. It's like Frontier Engine animation supervisor, and then they're just these three people who I have no idea who they are. No. And one guy has a period in the middle of his name.
Yeah, I was like, how do you even read this? It's like Shuzilo.ha.
Is he a website? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, this episode just falls to pieces in the second half, and just like Shimanuki pops up uncredited out of nowhere. Suji is there just trying to tidy things up and do her best, and it's awful. My God.
Like, I just can't bring myself to hate it because of how good the first half was, and that big cut in particular was still like one of my favorite pieces of Dragon Ball animation ever.
God, yeah, I cannot believe I just skipped over that. I'm sat there talking, Tate, doing all of this. Totally missed the big thing, the Goku versus Frieza cut. The big scene.
That was, God, it was so good. What is the one thing better than impact frames? An impact frame with a smear in it.
God, yeah, there's so much going on in it. Like I did a Naoki Tate video overview and spent like a quarter of the video on this one scene just because I feel like it sums up Tate so well. Like he's someone who understands realistic movement, for one, knows how to break realistic movement, knows how to use animation as an art form with like squash and stretch and cool impact frames and just everything that makes animation fun, and he just throws it all together into these fantastic scenes. And like, no, this isn't the best scene in the world. It's not gonna like blow anyone's minds or anything, but it's a really, really well done scene, and it's been appreciated in and outside of the fandom. So yeah. It's the fact that it turns up here is strange, but it's it's great. Maybe we'll see more of this next week.
Oh, I hope so.
Yep.
He really does. He blends everything that he has into that cut, like most of his skills. I really liked where he flipped over Frieza's head, and like they zoomed in on Frieza, and like there's, like you mentioned with Onishi's cut in episode 14, how there was like the camera disconnect where Goku moves out of the frame and then he just kicks Frieza in the back.
Yeah, stuff like that is so good.
I love that so much. I have to wonder, do you think Tate just storyboards his own action?
I'd guess so, yeah. Like I feel like there are just certain animators who just don't really need they just don't need a storyboard. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine that scene coming from anyone else.
No, like
it's so. I mean, I suppose bits like the kick, where Goku comes off screen, that stuff feels like it comes from a storyboard, maybe. But I think some of the finer details are almost definitely spawning from Tate's layouts, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope we get another glimpse of that next week. It seems really good what we saw in the next episode preview for 63.
Yeah, I was going to say that preview was wonderful. I don't want to talk about it too much because we're in the Resurrection F arc, but it looks like he's doing a lot. Like normally you see like one scene that Tate's doing, you're like, oh, okay, all right, that's fine. But there's like a scene with Trunks, and then there's a scene with Vegeta, and like, okay, he's doing a lot here. This should be cool.
I'm looking forward to
it. In before it's like 20 seconds and we've just been fooled again.
Oh, God. NEPs, man, they'll fool you. I've been fooled so many times.
So many times. I don't think I'll ever forgive, was it episode 61 or 60, whatever it was.
Yeah. I was like so excited for Kinoshita.
Yeah, it broke me. What a shame.
But if there is one advantage of talking about the NEP, it's that it's a good segue into episode 27 because Manabe shows up.
That is true. That was a nice segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, episode 27. So Manabe, Oka, and Koyama again. Yeah. So I'm just going to let you talk about this because I don't really like this episode. So I'll just come in and tell you why in a bit.
Okay. Well, first off, I think this is an interesting note, is that the recap was like really long. Like the last episode recap, it was like 2 minutes long.
Jesus.
And I don't know if there's ever been a recap that long in Super before. They need to.
God.
They basically summed up the whole arc prior.
Jesus. I know that like One Piece tends to do that quite a lot. Like you'll have like 3-minute recaps, and I'm like, okay, I get the picture now. It's only been a week. Let's do things.
But yeah, this is basically the Vegeta versus Golden Frieza fight, which it was definitely one of the big highlights from this arc in terms of animation, at least the start of it. Vegeta actually charges in and punches Frieza in the gut and all that. That was nice, but for the most part, it was just kind of standard. The entire sequence.
So I feel like I hate saying, oh, something's overrated just because I personally don't like it. But my theory is that because this arc had been so bad, and because we've been longing for a good, long fight, and because people really, really wanted to see Vegeta beat Frieza, the fact that this episode was much better animated than most of the stuff that had come before and was longer. It was actually a long episode of fighting. And the fact that story-wise, it gave fans that, gratuitous Vegeta beatdown thing. I feel like it sits in people's memories better than what it actually is. Like if you look at the action scenes that we have now that actually hold up against other shows, and you go and look back at this, it doesn't really cut it.
Not
aside from the bit like you
yeah.
were saying, like that one bit where Vegeta does come in and you suddenly get this really cool, interesting movement. That bit's fine. That bit looks cool, but everything else is just so stiff and sort of, I don't know, by the numbers for Super at that point. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I guess in retrospect, it's interesting to see Manabe finally sort of settling on an art style It only evolves from here, which is cool, or refines itself rather. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on this, honestly. Like, I'm not a massive fan of it. There are only little bits that I enjoy.
For overall, it's okay. When I was watching Super, like, on a week-to-week basis, I thought that this was done better than the movie. And I like some of the ideas better, maybe, and how it was like maybe a little bit longer than it was in the movie. But going back, I definitely like Yuki Hayashi's take better.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't even come close.
No. And I mean, that's part of that isn't fair because, you're comparing a movie to a TV series again, but the one part in particular that doesn't hold up when I went back and rewatched it is when Vegeta hit Frieza in the air, and then he's just like beating him down as they're both falling, and it's actually kind of comedic and like how it looks and how like Nikao makes like these don't deep dot noises like as he's falling. God. And yeah, that wasn't great.
Yeah, I feel like you told me this last time. I can't even remember if it even made it into the video, but I remember you telling me, and I still haven't gone back and watched it because I couldn't remember what you were talking about at the time. So yeah. I'll have to go and check that out.
You brought up when we were talking the part where Frieza was shooting with ki blasts, and it was da 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 da.
Oh god, yeah. That was so awkwardly animated as well. It like again, just arms moving, no body reaction either.
No. Yeah. Well. But it was a good episode overall. But
it was fine. Fantastic. It was an okay end to the arc, I guess.
Yeah.
I still won't ever forgive the fact that like Piccolo is dead for like many episodes, and then the eye catch is over, and suddenly it's like, oh, and Piccolo's alive now. Hi guys. It's like, oh great, cool.
Yeah.
That was a waste of time.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about his death, but I mean, I guess it doesn't matter in terms of animation, but that was like the most pointless death I think ever.
So pointless. Yeah. I guess the thing that's weirding me out is that that's the end of the arc.
There's only 12 episodes.
Yeah, wow. Was it really that short?
Yeah. Which
is weird because the Battle of Gods was only 14, but I suppose this feels shorter because I don't think about sort of episodes sort of 15 to 18 as being part of this arc, even though it obviously is. Like it all ties into it, but because it doesn't really follow the film, it's weird to think that they basically retold the film almost in real time. Almost. Yeah, I don't know. That's so strange to me. But,
I agree.
Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, and this is honestly the arc that could have used more episodes.
Yeah, massively. They could have. The thing, like, I don't know whether they just didn't want to like undermine their film, or if they didn't want to sort of admit that there were sort of mistakes or things that could have been massively improved. But there was so much potential with that story.
They did so good building it up.
Yeah, like we're watching the start of this arc and we're thinking, we're moving way away from animation now, but whatever. Yeah. we're thinking like, oh, they're expanding on stuff here, and like we've got all this training stuff, and holy shit, that's a hint at Super Saiyan Blue before it happens. Maybe we're gonna get like a proper explanation or whatever, and then like the film starts, and then you end up with these bizarre things like Ginyu and Gotenks and Piccolo dying
for some reason,
and it's just like, what are you doing? Like what is going on? And like the fight between Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Golden Frieza in the film is so boring.
Oh my god!
And they did nothing with it in this. They made it even worse. And
that's saying something.
Yeah. So that's just not fun. So that was a waste of an arc.
Definitely.
Oh well.
Do we even need to rate this arc in terms of animation? I mean,
like, I don't know. It's so hard because all I think about is what did I rate Battle of Gods?
I think you gave it a 6.
Did I give it a 6? Okay. So, like I was saying before we started this recording, is that really the worst parts of this arc are episodes like 24, 25 second half, and then 26 is second half. Like those are the worst parts of this arc. But that's not even 3 episodes in total of everything else that is mostly okay.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing that sticks out in everyone's minds, because that's the big fight, and that's what people wanted to be good. And so I don't really want to hop in there and go, 2 out of 10 because they fucked up the fight. I think if we think about episodes like 15 to 18 and some of the bits here and there, it's probably only just below Battle of Gods, really.
Yeah.
So I guess if I did give it a 7, then I give it a 5. If I gave Battle of Gods a 6, then I give it a 4.
Yeah, I'd probably maybe give it a 4.
Which sounds so harsh, but
it
I guess
does, but I mean,
it's definitely fair. Like if I was rating like the Black Arc right now, that's probably like a 7.5 or like an 8 maybe, by Super's standards.
Yeah. I guess we can do the top 3 moments, but I guess those go without saying.
Oh god, yeah, shit, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, obviously, I'm gonna try and come up with some unique ones. Okay, so episode 18, the part where Goku and Vegeta bust in on Beerus sleeping, and he gets mad and like opens his mouth and shoots this cool blast out. That was cool for me. I really like that. And then obviously episode 26, Tate's cut is wonderful. Really like that. And then what's the third one gonna be? I didn't do it in order. Number 1 is obviously the one I just mentioned from 26. Then number 2 would be again the thing from 18, and then number 3, I don't know. I don't like anything else in this arc. No, I'm not giving a number 3. I refuse.
Okay. Can I just make episode 16 my number 3? Is that cheating?
Oh yes. Okay, episode 16 is number 3. No, episode 16 is my number 2, and then the third one can be the thing from 18. Fuck! Okay. I completely forgot about episode 16.
The entire episode 16 is
it's just all of it.
Yeah. And then my other 2 would be the same as yours.
How did I just? Oh, I'm so mad at myself.
Come on, AJ.
Oh, God damn it!
Those were your favorite designs.
I was gonna say, I'm like, the golden standard of Dragon Ball Super, and I was like, I don't remember it. Whoops.
Well.
Oh well.
Yeah, I think that about does it for this one.
That was fast. That was a quick one.
Yeah, although we've been talking for over an hour, it doesn't feel like it.
Have we? Oh my god.
Apparently,
I cannot believe
so, yeah.
Did I really just dedicate an hour of my life to the Resurrection F arc of Dragon Ball Super?
We deserve all the pain that we're experiencing right now.
For me.
All right.
Well. I'm gonna go take a shower and just wash the fucking bad animation off of me.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, see you around.
See ya.